found himself laughing too, not because it was funny, but because it felt good. For a moment, loneliness didn't stand a chance. Outside, the desert night began to fall, painting the dunes in silver light. Inside, the exile and the wanderer sat close enough that their knees touched, sharing warmth, sarcasm, and the dangerous possibility of something more. And as the stars lit up the horizon, Seraphine whispered, "Don't leave yet, Kale. You don't know what it means to be the only human foolish enough to walk into my exile. And maybe foolish enough to stay?" Kale grinned, raising his cup again. "Guess I've always been bad at leaving parties early." They clinked glasses, and the night stretched ahead like a promise. Kale had slept in some questionable places before, collapsed mining tunnels, abandoned cantinas, and once inside a half-broken cargo crate with a family of smugglers' pet sloths. But falling asleep inside Seraphine's exile shuttle was something else entirely. For one, the bed was just 2 rugs layered on top of something metallic that hummed every few seconds like a lazy dragon with indigestion. For another, Seraphine insisted she did not snore, which was technically true. She didn't snore. She growled softly in her sleep, like a large predator dreaming about bad customer service. Kyle lay there, staring at the low ceiling. His brain, as usual, refused to shut up. "You realize," he whispered into the dark, "this is the setup to every bad decision in history. Guy meets mysterious alien, accepts free drinks, sleeps under the same roof, wakes up missing a kidney. You talk to yourself often, human?" Kale nearly jumped out of his skin. Seraphine's voice floated from the shadows, low and amused. She was leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, still in her battle leathers, silver hair glowing faintly in the shuttle light. "I thought you were asleep," Kyle muttered. "I don't sleep much," she said. "Dreams remind me of what I lost. Easier to stay awake and watch the stars. That's poetic. It's also insomnia," Kale chuckled. "Yeah, I get that. Back home I had insomnia too, mostly because my neighbor kept playing trombone at 3 in the morning. You haven't known true madness until you've heard jazz solos at 180 decibels. Seraphine tilted her head. "What is a trombone?" "Imagine a long metal tube that humans blow into, and it makes sounds somewhere between a dying space walrus and a bad mood." Her lips twitched. "Sounds hideous." "It is. But people still clap for it, which proves humans have terrible taste sometimes." She laughed, soft, genuine. "You make even suffering sound ridiculous. It's my one marketable skill." She stepped closer, crouching near him. Kale suddenly felt the weight of her presence, like standing too close to a live wire. "You asked why I live out here, alone," she said quietly. "You guessed loneliness. But loneliness is only the surface. Exile is shame. And shame is heavier than sand." Kale swallowed, sensing the shift from banter to confession. "What did you do?" She hesitated. "I refused him. The warlord. He wanted a wife who would obey, who would bear his children like trophies. I told him no. And on my world, saying no to a powerful man is the most dangerous thing a woman can do." Kyle blinked. "So let me get this straight. You got exiled for not marrying an egotistical creep." Seraphine nodded. "Yes." Kale sat up. "That's not exile-worthy. That's hero-worthy." Her eyes flickered. "Hero? I disobeyed. I shamed my family. You stood your ground," Kale interrupted, pointing at her. "That's human hero rule number 1. Never marry anyone who treats you like a collectible, unless they're rich and you like yachts, but that's a different conversation." She blinked at him, then laughed despite herself. "You turn rebellion into humor. I admire that. Or maybe I envy it." Kale grinned. "You should. Humor is humanity's secret weapon. Forget plasma rifles. Nothing disarms an enemy faster than a well-timed fart joke." Seraphine shook her head, amused and baffled all at once. "You are absurd. Absurd and alive. It's my brand." Their conversation was cut short by a low rumble outside. The ground trembled, rattling the shuttle walls. Kale jumped to his feet. Was that your growling stomach, or should I be concerned?" Seraphine's expression hardened. She grabbed a weapon from the wall, a gleaming staff that crackled with faint blue energy. "Sand crawlers," she hissed. Massive beasts. They hunt vibrations, and they're very hungry. Fantastic, Kale muttered. Because I always dreamed of becoming alien bug food. She pushed him toward the corner. Stay low, stay silent. Kale crouched but couldn't resist whispering. You know, when I imagined my first interspecies sleepover, I thought it'd involve different kinds of vibrations. She nearly smacked him with the staff. Do you joke in every life-threatening situation? Yes, it's either that or cry, and jokes are less messy. The shuttle shook again as something slammed into it from outside. Dust rained from the ceiling. A guttural screech echoed across the desert, deep and primal. Kale peeked out a small window and instantly regretted it. A colossal creature loomed in the moonlight, half centipede, half nightmare, with rows of legs that churned up the sand like a blender. Its mandibles clacked, sharp enough to slice through steel. Okay, Kyle whispered. That's a nope. A very large nope. 10 out of 10 nopes. Seraphine spun her staff, electricity crackling. It smells us. I must fight. Fight? Kale hissed. It's the size of a building. What's your plan? Poke it until it dies of embarrassment. She smirked. Close, aim for its sensory nodes. Blind it, then strike its underbelly. Kale stared at her deadpan. That's the most video game boss tutorial thing I've ever heard. The creature slammed the shuttle again, sending them sprawling. Seraphine cursed in Xyrelian. Kale picked himself up, brushing off sand. You know what? Kale said, grabbing a broken metal pipe from the floor. Fine, let's do this. If I die, at least I'll die dramatically. And my obituary will finally say something interesting. Seraphine arched an eyebrow. Like what? Kyle, wanderer of deserts, tragically eaten while heroically insulting a giant bug? She laughed, shaking her head. Mad human, very well. Fight with me, the battle was chaos. Seraphine darted out first, her staff sparking blue arcs into the night. She moved with a predator's grace, striking at the beast's legs, dodging its mandibles. Kale, meanwhile, provided what he generously called support, which meant running in circles, waving the pipe and yelling insults like, Hey, overgrown tapeworm! I've eaten salads scarier than you! Your mother was a compost heap! And the surprisingly effective, Come and get my juicy human thighs, you sand sausage! The creature roared, focusing on him. Kale screamed, sprinting across the dunes. Seraphine! It worked too well. It's coming for the thighs! She struck the beast's sensory nodes with precision, blinding it. The monster shrieked, thrashing wildly. Kale tripped, rolling down a dune, narrowly avoiding being crushed. Kale! Seraphine shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Strike its underbelly! Kale stared at her like she was insane. With what? My pipe? My optimism? Anything, now! Kale looked at the pipe, then at the writhing beast. Well, guess this is what passes for foreplay in your culture. He charged, adrenaline overriding common sense, and rammed the pipe into a soft patch beneath the creature's armored plates. To his shock, it screeched in agony, collapsing into the sand with a thunderous crash. Kale froze, pipe still embedded in the beast. Holy crap. Did I just... You did, Seraphine said, approaching with a grin. The mad human actually killed a sandcrawler. Kale pulled the pipe free, panting. Note to self, add Bug Slayer to my dating profile. She laughed, eyes shining. Perhaps you are more than just sarcasm after all. Don't spread that rumor, Kale said, grinning weakly. I've got a reputation to maintain. Back inside the shuttle, Kale collapsed onto the rug, sweaty and covered in sand. Seraphine handed him another cup of nectar. He raised it in mock salute. To not being bug chow. She clinked her cup against his. To mad humans and their ridiculous bravery, Kale smirked. So, does saving your life earn me a second date? Seraphine leaned close, her voice low. Who says this isn't already won? Kale blinked, then laughed. Well, in that case, worst date ever. Her lips curved. And yet, you survived. That makes it memorable. They drank, their laughter mingling with the desert wind outside. But as the night deepened, Seraphine's smile faded just a little. She glanced at the horizon, where distant lights flickered, too steady to be stars. Kale followed her gaze. What is it? Trouble, she whispered. Someone else has found us. The desert night was quiet in the way only deserts could be, eerily, suffocatingly quiet. The sandcrawler's corpse still steamed 100 meters away, its segmented body twitching as if trying to remember how to be alive. Cale wanted to be impressed with himself. Instead, he sat cross-legged inside the shuttle, staring at the horizon with a sinking gut. The lights were getting closer. "Okay," Kyle muttered. "If those are friendly traders, I'll eat my boots. If those are hostile raiders, I'll also eat my boots, but less enthusiastically." Seraphine stood at the doorway, her staff in hand, gaze unblinking. "Not raiders. Too organized. That pattern of movement." "Military," Cale groaned. "Oh, fantastic. Because what this romantic getaway really needed was armed soldiers crashing the party." "Silence," she snapped, though her lips twitched as if she found his sarcasm entertaining despite herself. "They will have tracked the crawler's death throes. Few things attract scavengers faster than a fresh kill." Cale tilted his head. "So, you're saying we're about to have guests who are basically buzzards with guns?" "Precisely. Cool, cool. And what's our game plan? Please tell me it's not stab them until they stop moving. Because I've only got one pipe, and it's already covered in bug juice." Seraphine didn't answer immediately. She looked troubled, more so than when facing the actual monster. "If they are who I think, then they've come for me," Cale blinked. "Wait, for you? You're telling me your lonely exile desert Airbnb comes with bounty hunters?" She turned, her silver hair catching the dim shuttle lights. "When I was exiled, the warlord vowed I would never be truly free. He swore I'd be watched. If those lights belong to his hounds, then they mean to drag me back." Cale raised his hands. "Hold on. Time out. You're telling me Mr. Galactic Toxic X sent an army across the galaxy just to fetch the girlfriend who dumped him?" "Fiancé," she corrected stiffly. "I never agreed, but he called me that anyway." Kyle whistled. "Wow, okay. I thought human dating was bad, but this guy? Grade A obsessive. On Earth, we just send passive-aggressive texts and maybe stalk social media. He sends mercenaries through the desert. Talk about overkill." Her eyes narrowed, but not at him, at the approaching lights. "They will kill you if they know you are here." Kyle scoffed. "Please. If I had a credit for every time someone threatened to kill me, I'd actually be rich enough to afford shoes without holes." "Kyle, I am serious." "So am I," he said, standing beside her. "If they want you, they'll have to get through me first. Which granted won't take them long, but hey, worth the sentiment." Her gaze softened just enough to betray something beneath the warrior's mask. "You are either very brave or very foolish." "Plot twist," Cale said with a grin. "I'm both." Minutes later, the lights materialized into shapes. 4 hover bikes, kicking up plumes of sand, engines growling like angry beasts. Each rider wore dark armor, visors glowing red. They circled the shuttle slowly, like wolves testing prey. One dismounted, striding forward with a swagger that screamed, "Villain audition." His voice boomed through a helmet speaker, Seraphine of Zerel. "By decree of Lord Venar, you are summoned back to face judgment. Come peacefully, or we will burn this relic and everything in it." Cale muttered under his breath. "Wow, subtlety is dead." Then louder, "Hey, Chrome Dome! Hate to break it to you, but she's busy tonight. You know, washing her hair, plotting your downfall, that sort of thing." The rider froze, visor turning toward Cale. "What? Is this a human?" "Congratulations," Kyle said, arms spread. "You win the Interstellar Spot the Species quiz." "Prize, my middle finger," Seraphine hissed, yanking him back. "What are you doing?" "Buying us time," Cale whispered. "Plus, I've always wanted to heckle bounty hunters." The rider chuckled darkly. "Amusing. The warlord will enjoy seeing the pet she's adopted." Cale bristled. "Pet? Excuse me, I'm not a pet. I'm more of a highly dysfunctional roommate. Enough games. Surrender." Seraphine's grip on her staff tightened, but Cale nudged her. "Wait, let me try something human." She gave him a look that said she thought human and stupid were synonyms. Still, she didn't stop him. Cale stepped forward, projecting confidence he definitely didn't feel. "Look, fellas, I get it. You're just doing your job. But dragging someone back to a creepy space warlord, doesn't that feel cliché? I mean, come on. Surely you want to spice things up. Ever tried karaoke? Or I don't know, Not being intergalactic henchmen? The riders exchanged confused glances. One actually muttered, "What's karaoke?" Kale seized the moment. Exactly. It's magical. Humans gather, get drunk, and scream songs until everyone regrets their life choices. Way better than bounty hunting. Even Seraphine stared at him, baffled. "This is your plan?" she whispered. "Distraction," Kale whispered back. "Watch!" The lead rider barked a laugh. "You are insane," Kale grinned. "Correct. And you can't shoot someone insane. It's bad luck. Everyone knows that. Not in our culture. Really? Damn! Worth a shot!" The rider lifted his weapon, but before he could fire, Seraphine's staff snapped forward, unleashing a bolt of blue energy. The blast hit his chest, sending him sprawling into the sand. Chaos erupted. The other riders drew weapons, shouting. Kale ducked behind a dune, yelling, "Okay, plan B. What's plan B?" Seraphine whirled, staff flashing arcs of lightning. "Plan B is survival." Kale groaned. "Of course it is. It's always survival. Why can't plan B ever be nap and snacks?" The fight was messy. Seraphine moved like liquid steel, deflecting blasts, knocking one rider off his bike with a crackling strike. Kale, lacking anything but his sarcastic mouth, improvised. He grabbed a handful of sand and flung it into a rider's visor. "Pocket sand!" Classic human technique. The rider cursed, blinded, crashing into another. Kyle cheered. "See? Human ingenuity. Our ancestors invented fire, wheels, and throwing dirt at enemies." "Focus!" Seraphine shouted, vaulting over a bike and landing a strike that fried its engine. The last rider aimed at her back. Kale, heart pounding, did the only thing his brain came up with. He sprinted forward and body-slammed the guy like a drunken wrestler. They both tumbled into the sand. Kale ended up straddling the armored man, wrestling for the blaster. "This is not how I pictured my evening," he shouted. "I wanted drinks, bad flirting, maybe a little interspecies smooching, not hand-to-hand combat with a stormtrooper knockoff." The rider grunted, shoving him. "Get off me, human!" Kale grinned, panting. "Not until you buy me dinner first." Finally, Seraphine yanked the rider off him with a surge of electricity. He collapsed, twitching, unconscious. Kale lay flat in the sand, gasping. "Okay, I'm starting to think my dating life is cursed." Seraphine stood over him, staff crackling, hair wild. She was breathtaking and terrifying all at once. "You are reckless. And yet," Kyle wheezed, "still alive." "You're welcome." Her lips quirked. "You infuriate me." "Funny," Kale said, grinning up at her. "That's usually step one in human courtship." They dragged the unconscious riders into the dunes, stripping them of weapons. Kale flopped against the shuttle wall afterward, sweat dripping. "Remind me," he panted, "to never piss off your ex. His idea of foreplay involves death squads." Seraphine sat beside him, quiet. Finally, she whispered, "They will send more. He will not stop." Kale looked at her, softer now. "Then we don't stop either. We fight, we run, we improvise. That's what humans do best. Improv comedy, but with survival." She turned to him, eyes glimmering. "Why risk yourself? You could leave. Save your own life." Kyle smirked, leaning back. "Because clearly the universe wants me in this mess. And maybe because—" He hesitated, then shrugged. "I like you. And not just because you look like a death goddess from a heavy metal album cover. You're smart. You're funny. And you deserve better than being some warlord's trophy." Seraphine blinked, taken aback. "You like me?" Kyle laughed nervously. "Yeah, wild, right? Human and alien bonding over bug-slaying and awkward banter. We're basically a rom-com waiting to happen." She stared at him for a long moment, then leaned closer, her voice low. "You are ridiculous. Ridiculously charming? Perhaps." Their faces hovered close, the silence stretching. For a moment, it felt like the desert itself held its breath. Then a distant rumble shook the ground again, deeper, louder, many engines this time. Seraphine pulled back, eyes wide. "More are coming," Kyle groaned. "Oh, come on! Can't we have one uninterrupted romantic moment? Just one?" The desert wind outside was shrieking as though the whole planet had joined in their argument, or maybe their courtship. It was impossible to tell any more. Kaelor stood with his bare chest glistening under the harsh light, arms folded in defiance, while Seraphina leaned against the metallic wall of the ship with the kind of sultry confidence only an immortal alien exile could pull off. I still say humans are fragile, she muttered, though a mischievous curve played on her lips. One little poke and your bones might just rattle like dice. Kaylor smirked. Funny because every time you poke me, I seem to come back stronger. Maybe you're secretly impressed. She rolled her eyes dramatically, but there was warmth beneath the act. Impressed? Don't flatter yourself. I've wrestled warlords who could bend titanium rods with their eyebrows. You snore like a malfunctioning plasma engine. He placed a hand over his heart. Ah, so you do listen while I'm sleeping. That's practically intimacy where I'm from, she snorted, but the laugh slipped out before she could stop it. You're ridiculous. And yet, he took a step closer. You haven't sent me running. You haven't vaporized me. You've kept me here. Because you're entertaining, she cut in, though her eyes betrayed her. And because, well, it has been so long since anyone touched me. The phrase hung in the air like static, vibrating between them with equal parts humor and raw honesty. Kaylor softened. He reached out, brushing a stray strand of silver hair from her face. Then maybe you should let yourself be touched again. Not because you're lonely, not because I'm human, but because you want to. Her lips parted as if to protest, but instead she closed the distance herself. The kiss was sharp at first, like two warriors testing each other, then softened into something neither of them expected. Sparks, literal sparks from a half-broken control panel, crackled above them as though the ship itself approved. When they pulled back, Serafina raised an eyebrow. You're lucky I didn't incinerate you with my tongue. Kaylor grinned. That's the hottest threat anyone's ever made to me. Literally. She shoved him playfully, but her laugh was unguarded, melodic, almost human. You really are infuriating. And yet you're still kissing me, he teased. Before she could retort, the ship's alarm wailed, an ugly sound like a drunk robot attempting opera. The sensors flared red across the cracked monitor. Outside, the sand shifted unnaturally, as if something enormous was moving beneath it. Serafina swore in a language Kaylor couldn't pronounce without spraining his jaw. Sand Leviathan. Perfect timing, Kaylor blinked. That's a thing? Like an actual monster? Or is this one of your metaphors again? The ground shook violently, answering for her. The tent-like walls trembled, and suddenly a gargantuan creature burst from the dunes, jagged teeth like obsidian, eyes glowing an eerie blue. Kaylor swore. Oh, good. It's both literal and nightmare fuel. Serafina snapped into warrior mode, grabbing a plasma spear from the wall. Stay behind me. He grabbed a rusty wrench. Not a chance. Besides, I've got, human ingenuity. Human stupidity, you mean? She growled, but her lips quirked despite the urgency. The Leviathan roared, spraying sand and drool across the ship. Kaylor ducked, muttering, Wow, intergalactic dating really does come with baggage. They fought side by side, Serafina slicing through waves of sand with blinding precision. Kaylor distracting the beast with a series of ridiculous tactics, throwing rocks at its nostrils, yelling insults about its dental hygiene, and at one point, mooning it just to get its attention. By the stars, Kaylor! Serafina shouted mid-battle. What are you doing? Comedy warfare! He yelled back. No creature can withstand the humiliation of my buttocks. And strangely enough, the Leviathan paused, blinking in sheer confusion, giving Serafina the opening she needed. With one powerful thrust of her spear, she struck the beast's glowing eye. It let out a guttural scream, retreating back into the sands. Panting, covered in sweat and dust, they collapsed against the ship's hull. Kaylor glanced at her, breathless. So, do I get credit for saving your life with my ass? She burst out laughing, harder than he'd ever heard before. I hate to admit it, but yes, your ridiculous rear end may have saved us both. See? He grinned. Humans may be fragile, but we've got assets. She groaned, half exasperated, half amused. If you ever make another pun like that again, I'll toss you into the desert myself. But her hand slipped into his anyway, fingers intertwining with an ease that felt far more dangerous than any battle. They sat in silence for a moment, the adrenaline fading, the desert eerily calm once more. Finally, Serafina whispered, You make me feel something I haven't felt in centuries, Alive, stupid, irritated, warm, all at once. Kaylor smirked. Sounds like love. She shook her head, though she didn't let go of his hand. Sounds like insanity. Same difference. He leaned in again, and this time she met him halfway without hesitation. Their lips pressed together, messy and imperfect, but real. For once, neither of them made a joke. The silence was louder than words. When they finally pulled apart, Serafina rested her forehead against his. Maybe, just maybe, you were the wanderer I was waiting for all along. And maybe you were the exile I needed, Kaylor said softly. Not just to kiss, but to fight sand monsters with. Which, by the way, should be a relationship milestone. Forget anniversaries. Slaying a leviathan together is forever, she chuckled, brushing his cheek. You're hopeless. Hopelessly into you, he replied instantly, earning another laugh. The desert stars began to pierce the horizon as night fell, bathing the wrecked ship in pale silver light. For the first time, Serafina didn't feel like an exile. For the first time, Kaylor didn't feel like a wanderer. Together they felt like something else entirely. Something worth fighting for. Something worth joking about. Something worth touching after so long. And as their laughter echoed into the alien night, it was clear this wasn't the end of their story. Just the beginning. If you enjoyed this twisted, romantic, and absurd adventure of Kaylor and Serafina, share it with fellow lovers of sci-fi, comedy, and messy alien-human romance. Because sometimes the universe doesn't need saving. It just needs a good laugh, a reckless kiss, and someone brave enough to show their ass to a sand monster.